Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mr. Fred and Friends. I'm your host, Fred Schultz, and poof, what a show tonight. We're not going to only be talking about, I'd have to say, one of the probably the most popular markers ever made. We're going to be talking to the guy that actually made it, and we're going to be talking to a couple other guys that they know these markers up, down, and sideways. Tonight I am going to have Peng King on. Obviously, William Bailey will be here with us, and the master. Oh, Allah, the master, Mr. Bud Orr, is going to be on with us tonight. So I got to tell you, and if you guys have any questions for these guys, they're more than welcome to go ahead and answer them for you. So, if you're in the comment section and you want to ask them a question, everything but age. Don't ask age to any of us, okay? But other than age, you can ask any questions you want. We would absolutely love it, and I'm sure Bud, Bill, and Ping would all love it also. So I'm gonna give a couple things here real quick before I get into these guys. I got to meet Ping. I met him down at Ambush Paintball Park at the first WCPL tournament this year, and I got to tell you, you guys are going to really like this guy. This is, I mean, you could feel all bummed out, and you spend 30 seconds with this guy, you're smiling, you're happy. I don't know what kind of aura is around him, but it's magical, and he's a terrific person. And I was so glad I got to meet him. I thought that was about as cool as it could get, and I'm very happy to have him on the show again tonight. Hey, Bonchick, how you doing? Tony Deeds. Paul Farrell, first one all the time, except Bonchick beat him one time. I don't know how they do that, but some great people I'm talking about. And, mentioning WCPL real quick, I've got the WCPL tournament. We're going to go in June to Newburgh, New York. It's the third of the 5 series WCPL this year. Actually, 6 if you count England's over there. So anyhow, it's going to be the 9th through the 11th, and it is in Newburgh, New York. And I got to tell you, it's some great fields. If you get a chance, you're definitely going to want to do that. And then the one we're going to have here in Northern California is going to be August 5th and 6th, and it's going to be at a new field this year, a place called Shooters. And it's in Nicholas, California. It's about 20 minutes outside of Sacramento. Bruce and Karen are the owners. Great people, and an absolutely terrific field. We're actually going to start laying out the field here in the next few weeks, but I got to tell you, woods ball is what it's all about. And Bruce and Karen have terrific woods ball fields. You're going to absolutely want to go check it out. It's very cool. And so anyhow, I have to congratulate Tommy Cole. They had a great Texas tournament and NXL tournament down there. And I also have to congratulate my friends, which I've had for many years, Dynasty. They won again. I mean, Dynasty is the name that fits these guys. These guys they're just incredible the way they play. And what's special about Dynasty, and I've known these guys a long time. It's on the field, they're probably the best. Off the field, they're probably the best also. They are very friendly, very approachable, and very courteous to absolutely everybody. So, I'm very proud to call these guys my friend. There's no doubt about it. And as you remember, I had a guy named Daniel Gonzalez on. You can get on Flagpole Productions and check it out. The information's on there. And he's doing a fundraiser in the next, it's going to be probably about 4 or 5 weeks from now. But he has a guy that he works with, and his teenage daughter has stage 3 cancer. So they're doing a fundraiser to help him out a little bit, and the money absolutely helps. There's no doubt about it, because when you get into something like this, it's extremely expensive. But I think, to me, what really makes the big difference to everybody is the thought that other people that you don't even know are willing to jump in and give you a hand. So, monetarily, I'm sure it's a good thing. I think mentally it's a huge thing. And I just kind of hope you'll all kind of hang with us. Jump on Flagpole Productions, or go ahead and get a hold of Daniel Gonzalez, and there's all kinds of ways. I'm going to help them with the raffle. I'm donating stuff to the raffle. So, if there's something you can donate to help this family out, it's very well appreciated. Okay. So anyhow, I just had to go ahead and mention that. And then one more thing I got to mention, forget my shout outs real quick, is I've been waiting forever. Okay. Now I'm talking forever. I'm talking probably 20 some years. And I'm actually wearing, this is the OFG, the original Fred gear. This is the original Tiger Stripe, and it is being sold at Social Paintball right now. And let's see if I can get this right. And you can tell it's an original Tiger Stripe because that is what is on the inside of it right there. And I've been waiting a long time. I had to bug Timmy forever to try to bring it back because Tiger Stripe is probably the most sought after camel probably out there, period. I mean, the OG Ironman and myself, a lot of us still wear this stuff. It's absolutely great. It really, really is. So I'm going to give my shout outs real quick, and then I want to bring out my guests. You're going to love these guys. They definitely know what's going on. So, I start every week with Tim Schloss. Tim Schloss has Tiger Stripe camouflage. Again, here it is. And he also has Gateway Paintball, and he is the last of the WCPL tournaments that will be coming up in October, and it's in St. Louis. And you get a chance, you're going to want to go check out that field. And you want to check out Social Paintball. I got to tell you, I'm so proud of these jerseys. They are so cool. And back in the day, Tim, I wore these right from the start with Tim. And Tim made this one. I like the black sleeves because when my arm hung out from a tree, I wanted it to look like now it looks like a log, but it used to look like a stick hanging out there. So anyhow, mine have the OFG, the original Fred gear, have the black sleeves with the tiger center and back. And then the tiger ones are these, and they are tiger all the way around, and they are just absolutely terrific. So, and then I'm going to give my shout out to Dan and John Colby, Immortal Air. Air America back in the day, Immortal Air now. Great people. We just had a tournament in Florida at Panhandle Paintball that Danny and Steve Prisco own, and great field, great time. I am, be honest with you, I'm so proud of the WCPL. I can't even begin to tell you. And I'm proud of the people that are involved with it too. Just great people. Really, really are. And then I got to say hi to Mr. You ready for this? Tom K. Now, Tom K and Bud Orr are real good friends, believe me. And so was Dennis Tippman back in the day. Bud Orr and Tom K. Tom K had Airgun Designs, was my sponsor for years. These guys would sit and chat all night. Matter of fact, maybe we can drag a story out of Bud tonight and talk about an all-night session these guys had, because, you get these two guys talking markers, boom. It's just out the door. These guys won't stop. These guys know their stuff, believe me. And I got to say hi real quick to Rainey and Juvie Boucher, had Paintball News back in the day. Jerry Braun, Paintball Sports Magazine back in the day, and also has Paintball Sports Field, and that's where the next WCPL up in Newburgh, New York is going to be in June. Like I say, if you get a chance, you're going to want to check that out. Ross Alexander, Line SI, was my very first paintball marker. I actually still have my Bushmaster up here, the very first one that I played my very first 15-man professional tournament with. Very cool. I got to say hi to Mr. Jim Lively. 2 tournaments back in the day you wanted to do. One was Jim Lively's Masters. The others was Jerry Braun's World Cup. So if you get a chance, you want to go out to Newburgh and check this out. You're gonna absolutely love it. And then I got to say hi real quick to Gino from Belkin. Gino does an awful lot of stuff for paintball. Gino's a big guy, no doubt about it. I mean, Belkin is everywhere. But, I'm very privileged to kind of be behind the scenes to see what this guy does for the paintball community and how he actually does help a lot of people out. And he doesn't talk about it. So, I talk about it a little bit. And then my 2 young guns I mention every week that I absolutely love these 2 kids, Mark Gong Jr. and Jaden Gong. So just absolutely terrific. I can't ever say enough about these two kids, and I can't say enough about their father, Mark, too. Mark's out of town right now. He's out roaming around doing union stuff. Last I seen, he's in a big fancy motel, so I know it's got to be rough on the poor guy. But anyhow, it is what it is. So I'm going to bring out Billy real quick before I bring out these two super guests of mine. And remember, you guys got any questions for these guys? Let's nail it. But real quick, everybody welcome Mr. William Bailey. What's going on, Billy?
I'm getting ready tonight.
Yeah, boy, hey, can you believe it? Having Peng King and Bud Orr on the same show?
Yep. It's going to be cool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Both my knees are bruised from shaking. They were knocking into each other. I got to tell you, it's just, it's amazing. I'm very, very pleased. And I know people are going to have some questions for these guys. And I know I'm going to nail Bud with one, too, because I want to know what really gave Bud Orr the idea and the whereabouts to go ahead and put a marker that has lived. When you invent this thing, back in 1837 or something like that? It's been a while. I know it.
1492.
It came over then. I'll be
man.
Well, I guess my history's off. You know, I mean,
it wasn't when they, when he brought the ark across. It was when,
no, it wasn't with the ark because I was rowing on that one.
Yeah.
So
you guys are too busy rowing. So
yeah. So I know all about that. So, yeah, I'm going to hit him up. I'm going to ask him, because something has to possess anybody to make something that's so spectacular and lasts. I mean, they're still popular as heck, Billy. This isn't something that came out and left.
I say the autococker is the Harley Davidson of the paintball gun world. It's the
yeah, because I'm a Harley Davidson guy too, so I love
you can just modify it and make it however you want it and personalize it, and it's your gun, but it's still an autococker.
Yeah, I got a couple of mine right here. I got this guy here.
Yeah, it's a nice one, Outcast.
Isn't that sweet? And then I've got. I'd be very gentle with these.
No, that was a nightmare. That was a nightmare.
That's what my wife says about me. Oh, you're talking about the marker?
The marker.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I was confused. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm back out here now. And then this is one that I play with when I go play tournaments.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That's been Caesarized too.
It's Caesarized and Billerized because you were the first one to have this because you sent it back to me without the barrel. I remember it was pretty cool.
I did that on purpose so you'd get a good barrel.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I use Field One's anti-lock barrel. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, I am sold on Field One's barrels. They are just magnificent. I just don't have any problems at all with these barrels. And it comes with all the inserts and everything. I don't sell things on here. But I got to tell you, if you guys are looking for a fabulous barrel, get a hold of Field One and ask them about their anti-lock barrel. It is just, I think it's called anti-lock, interlock.
I bet they sell it in all different colors, so you can match them with your guns.
Absolutely. Well, what do you say, Bill? Should we drag these two guys out here and let our guests talk a little bit to them?
Heck yeah. Yep. Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to start with Ping. I met this guy down at the WCPL. Yeah, I got it right. It's Ping. He told me. It's not right. Darn it, Billy.
Yeah, you're
all right.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Kin. Okay, how's that? I got to nail it somehow. I met him at the WCPL tournament down in at Ambush Paintball Park. Glenn Forrester is down there in Southern California. And I got to tell you, the guy grows on you right away. First class all the way, period. So please, everybody, welcome Mr. Peng Kin.
What's up, everybody?
Well, how close was I?
You're on point. You're right there.
Let me write that down because Bill will tease me.
Hang on.
Like penguin.
Yeah. Bill's gonna. Yeah, there you go.
No, I was just calling the Pope to see if hell froze over.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
You just got it right this time.
There you go. Well, I know you work on autocockers. You're a big autococker guy too. So what do you say we drag out the guy that put this thing together and say hi to him? Please, everybody, welcome Mr. Bud Orr.
Hi, everybody. How
Hey,
What's
you
going on,
doing?
Bud?
Thanks
Hey,
for having me on the show.
nice shirt.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, like that, man. This thing. I just pulled it out of the package today. It's brand new, but
Really?
it's 25 years old. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna go get
that's
it
what I
from
tell
you.
everybody. Yeah, I tell everybody that about myself too. I'm like brand new. I'm just old. That's all.
Yeah,
So,
so am
No,
I.
yeah.
Every morning I feel brand new.
Hey, we got Joshua Estrada watching us too. Josh is from down in your area down there, Ping. Great guy.
Great guy.
Yeah,
He's a great guy.
he really. What's funny too is I knew this. I talked to this guy for 2 years on the show. He watched every week, and then I'm at the WCPL where I actually met you. And the guy comes up and taps me on the shoulder, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Joshua Estrada." And I got to tell you, it was just such a cool thing. And that's what I just love so much about paintball. It is just stuff like that. And then getting to meet you, Ping. I've heard about you. I think I've even talked to you online before, but I never got to shake your hand or really see the influence that you have on people like you had down there. Although your wife was keeping you under control, but I think that people just love being around you. They really, really do.
Hope so.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start with Bud here. Bud, what really gave you the inspiration and the idea to put together the autococker?
Well, I know Peng's played at SC Village, and if you go to SC Village, there's a couple of the fields that are just like sand. I mean, like beach sand. It's sometimes even worse. And most of the guns out there at the time were, they get sand in them, jam, this, that, and the other. So there you go. So I'd been thinking about it a while, about 2 or 3 months, and then but Aaron Carter was making the Annihilator, and I was buying it through a friend of his, and it was kind of a weird situation because there was two gunsmiths there, myself and Gunny, and I would buy them from Gunny, but I was actually the guy was a friend of mine too, and I can't remember his name, but anyway, he used to bring him guns, and I couldn't talk to him direct if we were all three looking at each other, and I had to talk to Gunny, and then he had talked to the guy. I told him that was ridiculous, you know, and we got, me, I got to express my opinion, and I don't think he liked it very much, but anyway. He said, "Well, that's just the way it's going to be." And I says, "Oh, okay. Well, then I just won't buy your stuff." He said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'll make my own." And he laughed his ass off. I mean, he was just sitting there laughing. Got in his truck. He's a little heavy set, and got in his Jeepster. He had a Jeepster, and drove off. And so I thought about it all week. And so Friday evening, about 6 o'clock, I thought, God, I got to make that gun. So I went out in the garage, and my favorite program, Miami Vice, was on at 8. So I went ahead and worked
Uh-oh.
um, a body made and a trigger frame on it, but in 2 hours. So I bored them all out and stuff. And so I went in and watched it, and I come back out, and I worked on it till about midnight, got up about 6, and I shot it at 9 o'clock that morning. And I thought, I'm going to go to the field with this thing. And so I went out to the field. And I had to bore the barrel. I didn't have any tubing. I actually bored the barrel out. So what it looked like, a nightmare. But I went ahead and went out the field. And guess who was driving in the field right in front of me? Was the guy that laughed at me. I thought, So I drove up behind him, and he got out of the truck and or his Jeepster and started walking away, and I got out and shot him in the ass. Well, he's hopping around like no tomorrow, and he turned around and seen me, and he said, "What'd you do that for?" And I said, "Don't ever laugh at me," you know. And so we had a little contest right there of shooting. We only had tubes back then. We didn't have
Right.
hoppers, and we'd put tubes up on the fence, and he'd shoot them, and I'd shoot him, and I whipped his butt pretty bad. And it was a homemade barrel. I mean, and it's the same one that's on it today, and it still shoots accurate, but it shoots big paint, not the stuff we
Right.
got today. But then I used that, and then I was on the headhunters, and they all wanted one, so I made 10 of them for them guys, and then they said, well, why don't you keep making them? I said, well, okay. So I worked for the government at the time, had a great job, 60 grand a year back in the 80s. That was pretty good money.
That's real good.
And so in 1984, 88, I quit and went to, and started my own business, making 250 bucks a week, lived off my wife's paycheck for 5 years. So, and it was rough, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And Ping and I talk about that. It's, when you first start out, it's no picnic, I'll tell you that. There's a lot of all-nighters sitting there because if you're the only one machining, then you got to be there all night.
Yeah.
So, but I
Yeah.
made
We
him in
also.
I made him in my shop for 2 years. So, and then
So when you started, did you ever think it was going to take off like it did?
no, I had a lot of criticism from a lot of guys that were tinkering with guns. I call them tinkering. They were modifying them.
Right.
And I just didn't, just didn't pay no attention to, I had my dream. And if you let people interfere with your dreams, you're not going to be successful at it. So
Correct.
I just shut them out and continued on doing my thing. But I would listen. Believe me, I listened to what they had to say when it was constructive. I listened to learn, not listen to criticize
Well,
or respond. So
or you're never too old to learn anything. A smart guy listens to everything and then makes his own assumptions about what he wants to do.
yeah, and
That's
that.
very simple.
Yep, Ping's a lot like that. Him and I have several discussions, and love the guy. He's genuine.
Yep.
Um, he's not phony at all,
Nope.
and he speaks his piece a little bit, but sometimes I have to get in his butt a little bit because he says it too much. But I
Hey,
love him to death, Dad. He just and he knows what he's doing. I mean,
yeah. Oh,
that's
yeah.
what I like the best.
Oh, yeah. Hey, he's on the show
So
for those two reasons. He's a nice guy and he does know what he's doing. Him and Bill both. I mean, both these guys live autocockers. That's they absolutely love them. And Ping, what actually got you started in? Well, first of all, tell us how you got started in paintball. But how did you evolve to getting hooked up with the autococker? And hold up that pump that you just had. Can you hold that up one more time for me?
My first custom build I did, I copper plated it and acid washed it.
looks
Um, I
cool,
got
dude.
I got
Cool.
these as a bunch of raw bodies. I had about maybe a little over 17 carnivores, and I had a bunch of raw bodies because I ran into somebody that knew Bud, and that was my first build right there back in 2012, I think, 2013, and I've just gotten known off that build, and nobody knew who I was until I started getting on Facebook, and they didn't realize how big of a collection I had at the time. It's just, I got these after the recession when everything was cheap. Everybody was selling off their markers, and back then when I discovered paintball, it was a lot more expensive. I couldn't afford it back then. I walked into a mall, I saw a few WGP markers that was up there. It was 800 to 14, $1,200, $1,400, and I could never afford them. But After the recession, I discovered them on Craigslist and yard sales, and I collected them up. I didn't know they were they kind of lost its steam for a little bit, and I just picked them up like they were hotcakes. Didn't realize that um, people had moved on to other things, but it started coming. I picked it up right before it came. The autocockers came right back up. It went down during the recession and came right back up, and I had this big collection. I spent like $6,000 to $7,000 on. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "These things are worth a lot more than what they are."
Yeah.
And when I discovered Facebook and a few people that was on my friends list, I wasn't on any of these groups, and um, I was, pretty much a tinkerer. None of them worked. That's why a lot of them became pumps. And if it wasn't meeting, Bud and Mean Gene and all those old guys, I wouldn't know how to put them together. They gave me tips and advices, and I've been tinkering around with them night and day, trying to get them to work and conversating with people like William Bailey and other guys on the internet, and just reading and watching Simon Stevens videos and learning how to perfect it. And I rebuilt, helped a lot of people locally, and they started recommending me out in the social media, and it all snowballed since then, and it just gotten better and better. I just learned the inner workings of them. I'm just a tinker at heart, and I just just there's a certain feel and a certain sound they give. You
Absolutely.
know, and you cannot miss the sound of an autococker. When I go in the field, I know where it's coming. I can hear them. They have their own sound, their unique sound. And
Y-
these are the paintball markers. I didn't have the money to buy back then. I've seen them on magazines. I was in a different life back then. I discovered paintball. Was it on ESPN? Just watching it, and then I seen the magazines. There used to be magazine racks back then, and 7-Elevens and
Yep.
like that. And it's a very lucrative sport back then. Just to get in, if you didn't have the funds to you didn't know where to go to back then. I
Yeah.
think
It was
it's
expensive.
a little late, but I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here too. And yeah, you're right. It was really expensive back in the day.
Mhm.
So the first one you built was a pump, then, right?
Yes, the first one because I couldn't get my autococker to work. It was just leaking. I aired it up and I just gave up. And people were like, "Throw a pump kit on it," and and they all became pumps. And I just have a bins and bins of parts and I started learning from the old guys online at the fields. What makes them work, and what their advices are, and what type of oils to use, and I just learned how to perfect it there. Took a little bit from everybody, and I was always open ears on anybody I met in the field. And there's a lot of old guys that were out there just once they see me holding one, they're like, "Hey," and they'll give their little tips and tricks. And it's not like I came up with a lot of stuff. I'm just made up of a bunch of older guys, guys that were way ahead of my time, and
Right.
people that were fanatics. They knew, when you see another guy with an autococker, you gravitate towards each other. You're like
Yeah.
friends now.
Well, I'll tell you what's really funny too is, you're talking about the sound they make, and they do make a certain sound, but the projectile of the ball is incredible. How
Spot
flat,
on.
isn't it? That
Yeah.
that is what is really amazing is the way the air pushes the ball, and Bill, you know about that. What's the one you always call the was that flat line?
Oh,
Hmm.
the flat line. Yeah, yeah,
Was that special barrel or what is that?
yeah. The barrel's curved, so it puts a backspin and it just goes.
It's
It's not
straight.
accurate, but it throws it way out there, and they're great if you're running driving in a tank or whatever, because you can shoot under everything and then it goes up, so you can shoot underneath the trees and stuff, and it'll go up and take out people. It's pretty funny.
How many
Yeah.
cockers you think you got, Billy?
I I don't know. 300.
Yeah, there you go.
you know,
Well, yeah, what amazes me too is you see all the sales of markers and everything back in the day and even today, and the autococker has sold over 500,000. That's a
yeah,
lot.
That's
That's
a
yeah.
a
lot.
lot of markers.
Well, it's a
Absolutely.
good quality gun, and you can personalize it. You can make it into whatever you want.
Yep. No, you're
You know,
absolutely right.
everybody's identity is tied up in their gun. You know, it's just like Western days. You know, you seen the guy with the ivory grips. You know, and you know you can get custom grips, custom barrels, custom ammo jobs. They know exactly who it is. You see a gun online, you know who owns it. You know, you don't even really have to ask whose it was. You know,
No,
Mhm.
you're absolutely right.
yeah.
And
when
really
I
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
bud. No, go ahead.
when I had my my company over probably about 95 somewhere in there,
Yep.
there was 360 people selling or modifying the pump guns and cockers. You know, I mean, I didn't mind that. You know, I mean, if they bought a basic gun from me, heck, you know, send it to me or send it to whoever wants to modify it for you, and then make it personal. You know, and that's even when we come out with anodizing and different types of anodizing. It was, you know, that's what I like about it is because I sell you the gun and you take it to whoever you want to have it, whatever you want done to it, and personalize it. So
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
and,
yeah, what's good about it too, though, is you can modify it in a lot of different ways, and you can put your own touch and stuff on it.
yeah,
Like I showed earlier, the one that I actually play with. You know, it's the autococker, but I shoot with the AccuLock barrel. By Field One, because I love the barrel on this thing. It just shoots absolutely terrific, and I've had it boom treated, by Caesar. Like I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Hey, Is that not a good barrel system, though?
It's a beautiful system. It's really good. It's easy maintained. It's really accurate. That's
Hey,
my go-to barrel.
yeah, that's one I use all the time, and I absolutely love it. And those guys all been friends of mine for years. They all started on my fields out here. Eric Crandall and Yosh and Alex Frazier and them guys. But the barrel system, I just absolutely love it. And what's cool is I love the autococker, and I can take and put one right on the other and have one hell of a
Yeah.
system.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. So, Billy, you modified a lot of these things too. When I first met you a couple of years ago, that's what you were talking. I was always talking about autococker this and autococker that.
Yeah. Well, see, you know, there's a big difference between modifying and just putting stuff on them. You know, I prefer to restore guns. I really don't like to, you know, chop anything up or re-anodizing unless you have a raw body that's never been anodized before and you have an idea to come up with something cool. Like, Penn, Justin Ramirez, he sits there and he'll take guns and he'll just make crazy designs for me, you
Uh-huh.
know, and I'll just sit there and I'm getting ready to do custom ammo on them, but it just he does awesome work. There's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people that actually does true modifications, but I prefer to restore them,
Yeah,
but I
I.
know Penn. I know he does all kinds of crazy shit. He's got some of the weird tools to do it, and
Well,
he
you know what
does it.
amazed me when you talk about modifying? You just held yours up and see the gap, the cut in here.
Oh yeah, I did, yeah.
The
It just
first time I seen that, I thought that was so cool. Little things impress me. I'm sorry,
yeah.
but this, I just thought that was so cool the way that was cut in there like that. So
Yeah.
so
Well,
smooth looking.
Bud and them, they came up with some really cool stuff. Because like this,
Oh yeah, well like I say, you don't sell 500,000 of anything if it
no,
sucks. So
they did a lot of milling, and they
beautiful.
made all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, they
And it's
did.
and each one's a treasure. If you get a unicorn that you're looking for or whatever, it's exciting for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ping, you modify some of yours then, huh?
No.
Yes, I do. I'm actually I like to tinker around and try to throw my own flavor in it. And like I learned how to copper plate, nickel plate. I got an anodizing setup. I anodized myself. It's just lately I haven't had the time to modify any of my own stuff or do custom builds. I have a little bit over 30 markers from customers here from all over the country, and working a full time job and being a father of eight. It's a really busy life for me. I come home, I get a couple hours on a marker and hang out with the kids while I'm building them, and it's a little extra income, which is a blessing. Just it's you get to meet great people from all over it's people that never touched these markers before, younger people, and I like to educate them on that. Because there's a lot of people that don't know how to operate them, and I like to keep the education going on them. So everybody's always saying they're finicky and stuff, and they're not. They're actually not
No.
finicky if they're
No.
dialed in right. If they understand what everything is doing, right, and what those knobs are, instead of just adjusting and twisting them all kinds of ways. Once they understand what they do and what it does when you turn this and that, they start. It becomes easier for them. They can actually signature their timing on it. Some guys like a faster, snappier shot, and some like it a little bit medium. It's just, it's. I always tell people, unless you tinker around with your autococker and put down the right grip, unless it's built by you, you're not going to truly love it unless you put in the time and effort into what you do. William Bailey's got a nice booty on him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
made.
I seen Bud drooling over there. I was wondering what it was.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was trying to find something for you, Pam, but I don't see it. Dad,
yeah,
burn it.
yeah. It's ever since I started shooting the autococker, because back in the day, like I said, I started with Ross Alexander's, which I still have it actually, the Bushmaster, and then I was at a tournament when Tom K first brought the Automag out, and he gave me to his local team there, Swarm, and we were at Tennessee at Jim Lively's Masters, and Swarm just walked all over everybody with those. So I went and talked to Tom, and I was sponsored by him for years, but I also had an autococker back in the day too that I'd purchased, and I went over and I shot it at a tournament in England, and a guy was over there. He was a reporter, and he kept begging me to sell it. I sold it to him for the exact same price I paid for it here, and then come to find out, he turned around and sold it for like 3 times what he paid for it, and because you go right now in Australia, some of these autocockers, very well sought after, but they are expensive. Am I right, Billy?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, two, three
Yeah.
grand.
Connor tells us about that all the time.
Yep, yep, 2, 3 grand for them over there. But since I came back into paintball and I started shooting the autococker, I am just absolutely in love with it to it. And there's a guy up here, Ping. I don't know his name. I'm going to check and see if I can't put him on a show sometime. But he has an autococker that he redone, and I got to tell you, I think that thing only weighs about a pound and a half. No, seriously, it. He handed it to me, and at first I didn't even think it was an autococker. Everything was just so light on it. So I'm going to find out who this guy is, and I'll send you some pictures. It's absolutely incredible. So
Yeah. You,
So
you see
what's
some very interesting things people do with them.
oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's and you think you've seen it all, and then you just run into a guy in the field or
No.
on the internet now, and it's just like, what on earth is that? And these fancy milling, these CNCs are so capable of doing so much stuff to them nowadays, and people are expressing their ideas right on these bodies, and in the end, it's still an autococker, right? But
Right.
Bud
Yep.
had created a legacy, with his markers for everybody else, to thrive on. There's people that are making a living off of what he created
Oh yeah.
decades
No,
later, and
yeah.
and I do appreciate that. It's just
No,
who
you're.
would think it's decades later, it's still going strong. There's guys making business. There's guys paying their mortgages off of theirs. You
Yep.
know, my Project 300ZX is because of these repairs.
I've seen pictures of that. You're going along on that pretty good, man. That looks
Yeah,
pretty sharp.
I got a forever project. I had a midlife crisis a couple years ago, and that car's still on stands out there. My neighbors like to remind me how much of an eyesore it is.
I love it. But when you did the autococker, did you ever think the longevity of it was going to last into now?
No, no, I really didn't. A lot of people didn't. And after, when I sold the company, it just, I mean, it was really popular. I just went out and played, had a good time, and I enjoyed my friends. And sometimes I didn't pay enough attention to what was really, what I did, and I'm not one of the guys that run around saying, "Look at me." I'm ducking in a corner somewhere. But no, I just love to play. And Tom and I got together. I met Tom. Oh man, that was a funny story too. But PMI used to buy guns from me at my kitchen table at home. That's when I first started building them back in '86, I think, '87.
That's
He
Jeff
was
Promoter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff. No,
Yep.
not Jeff. It was Dave Freeman. And
Well,
Jeff,
Freeman and Promoter, they were partners together.
yeah, they were partners.
Yeah.
And then he come in one day and he said, "You got to come back to Chicago with me." I said, "Yeah, I'll plan one." He said, "No, no, no. I got your ticket already." So I jumped on a plane with him and flew back there. And the first thing we done was drove from the airport to Tom's place. And his shop was upstairs, like over a garage or something. And went in there, and I was working on a semi that was Nelspot based. And
Hmm.
yeah, I walked in there, and the same thing I was working on, he was working on. The only difference was I had springs pulling the hammer and the bolt forward, and he had rubber bands. So, and we hit it off really good. Went to dinner that night, and I never been back in the Midwest much, but he said, "Let's go to dinner." And so we hopped in his car, and I swear to God, I couldn't believe it. I was looking down at the ground. The floorboard where
Rusted
the
out.
passenger seat was gone. It wasn't rusted, it was gone, man. I could have stepped on the ground at 80 miles an hour. I thought, "Oh, this is cool." He said, "Yeah, it's better in the summertime." So, but no, we hit it off really good. And
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't
he's,
ever thank him enough for what he's done for me over the years. I used to spend a lot of time. I go down to Chicago and spend a lot of time either at Air America with Dan Colby, and then I'd go over to Tom's place. And he had a nice little factory there too. He had a lot of great
yeah.
people working for him. I'll never forget the time I went in there, and he had a special place in the back, and he goes, "Hey, Freddie, check this out." He takes me back. He's got this Miata. He took one of his receivers to see how strong it was, and he's got this Miata hanging from it. So I got all
Oh,
kinds of pictures. Yeah, it was funny. But I had some good times with Tom. Tom and I traveled and did a lot of big games. Matter of fact, Tom and I were together in the very first world record breaking game, and that was in at Paul Fogel's place. And we had like 2,800 people there. I know it's gotten bigger since then, but that was the first one, and we had a great time. And him and I won a tournament together. Him and I played on a team, put together team over in France, and actually won that tournament. And so, I have nothing but respect for Tom over the years. And I understand that you guys had like an all night bowl session in a motel room one night too. You guys
we
were
used to
talking marbles.
at Deborah's tournament. We used to
Deborah
have
Dion,
the
yeah,
Deborah Dion, and we'd have a
amateur open.
big party at a hotel, and we'd go up in one of the guys' room. It'd be Tom Kay, myself, Ross, Mike Cassidy, all
Yep.
the gun guys, you know,
Yep.
and a
Yep.
couple of Jessica Sparks and her partner. Anyway, and we would just brainstorm, you know, on what we needed to make, you know. And I remember the first time we had it, I was making the ammo box, and Tom wanted to do something else, and I said, "Well, I'll make the ammo box and the 6 pack." I was making a similar thing, but not the 6 pack. It was a pump CO2 cartridge stock, and so he went off on that, and I went off on the ammo box, and he used to come to my shop at Christmas and tax time and help me do my books. So he knew I had no secrets from Tom ever. So
Yeah.
and
He treated me excellent. I put him in the show that we did down at MGM Disney, and I got to tell you, he was so grateful, and I was so grateful. He even let us do a Fred Schultz signature series mag. There's just all kinds of things the guy did for me. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. This has never been opened. This is the kit that you could get for the auto mag to make it a pump.
them are cool.
Yeah, I've never even opened it. He sent me it as soon as it came out, and it didn't really fly that good. He sold a few of them, but they didn't really take off. Everybody liked the semi-auto on it and everything like that. So that's what they kind of stuck with. So, but yours, you got a lot of pumps markers that you had. Not just
Yeah.
the cock. Yeah, but there's a lot of pumps. I mean, look at Ping. That's the first thing he pulled up was the pump version. And
Well,
is that
And
the first one you built?
yeah,
that was the
yep.
first one I built. I had a couple of was it cardboard bodies that were raw that I received were brand new, raw, never touched. I've got about maybe 60, 70 bodies here that that were pretty like brand new from back then, the first test bodies, and I just tinkered around with it, and I played pump religiously because they shot the straightest. I've had Carters, I've had other pump markers and stuff like that. I just prefer the autococker, the WGP bodies. It's just something about that build where you can customize to where there's a certain shot. It's just shot straight. And as a pump player, you want that one shot, because every shot counts, right? And
Yes. Yeah.
and I built stock class ones and competed. I've gotten better because of pumps. Playing in the semi division, 5-man semi divisions. I was a little bit hasty on making decisions and rationalizing, just not thinking. And until I got into pumps, it gave some was it? I was more in tune with everything. I didn't count on a lot of rounds. I learned how to pick my shots. I played it like chess. When you're playing with the old guys, it's like chess. All the old guys don't move fast if you see them on the field. They will get that angle on you. They move like ninjas, and you might. There's a guy named Mark Sager that plays down here in Southern California. Big USC football player. You would not realize he's in your 40 or your 30. Big guy, I think 6'6" or something like that, 300 something pound of a man with a pump marker. And you watch guys like him, it's all a game of chess.
Strategy.
Yeah, and they think counting the shots are straight, and learning how to play with the pump that actually made me better in the semi division. Also, instead of just wailing it, gunning it, and by volume, I've learned how to pick my shots and not just make hasty moves,
Yep.
like I'm Rambo.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, Ping, there's some kids up here because there's a lot of pump players up here yet. Some of these kids pump so fast, you swear they're shooting an electronic gun.
Oh, those are the kids.
It's unbelievable to watch these kids.
Oh, yeah.
They're just wrapping them out there, and they're not chopping balls. They're not
No.
chopping anything, man. They're just unbelievable. And right here we got Jay saying, playing pump is a great way to sharpen your game. It absolutely is, because it's a different skill level. You're not spraying and praying. You're
Hmm.
actually, thinking your shot through, thinking your moves out. That's
Hmm.
what I like about it too. It's pretty cool.
And talking about that, and that's why I like the 10-man semis. The mechanicals.
Yeah.
There needs to be more down here. I was hoping for more events, and I'm making a way to your WC CP PL up
WCPL.
north, and this August 5th, right? So I just wish there was more. That was it. That's a great cross between its, the faster games and the pumps. It's like that one that this is where we started from, right? A lot of us have, right? The rec field, the
Absolutely.
woods ball,
Yep.
and and I think a lot more people need to try it because this is where it's all. This is where the root of all of it's at. For me, it is, because that's where I started off. Is in the woods and in Escondido with Mr. Paintball running around and in the trees and stuff, and it's and this, it's like I don't know. It's just something homely
It is.
when
But
these 10-man events.
it's a different thing. There's a lot more strategy in that, and
Mhm,
and you don't have to be a human rocket like you do to play X ball. These kids are
mhm,
fast. Period. But when I started out, that's all there was woods ball. The very first speedball tournament I played in was at Jim Lively's Masters down by the lake back in the 80s, late 80s, and it was bales of hay. That was the speedball field, was bales of hay. And when I got there, he goes, Freddie, you got to try this out. This is something new. But I'm glad you said that about the woods ball thing. And first of all, it was so cool. I got to meet you face to face down there at Glenn's place.
mhm,
The woods ball thing. And you're right about the 10-man. There was only 10 teams there, but the reason is in Paris, California, down by where Bud lives, they already had there was a 5-man tournament, and
mhm,
they got way ahead of us, because
mhm,
we only started thinking about doing that 5 weeks before we actually had the tournament. And
mhm.
that Sunday Ping, there was a lot of kids that played in that 5-man tournament that actually came out there and said, if we knew it was going to be this much fun, we would have put together 10 guys and came and did this instead.
Yes,
So,
it's not only it's competitive, it's what is a lot of the team are not so cutthroat on each other as a semi.
yeah,
It's you still shook hands at the end of the day, whether the guy wiped or not. It's a lot of us knowing each other through the years, and a lot of these teams are made up just a bunch of guys that we met on the internet, and and a lot of guys get to see each other that they haven't seen each other in a long time. It's like a big reunion when you have these
right.
10-mans,
Yeah.
and it's just you don't have that attitude that I don't know. One That's one reason why I kind of walked away from the 5-man. The attitude it's of some of these younger teams are like very toxic, but when you go to a 10-man field, everybody's friendly, you shake hands like a man, you introduce each other, you're not staring the competition down.
Yeah. That was the
Everybody.
same. That was the same thing. We just did the Florida tournament down there, Ping, and I got to tell you, it was the same way. It was, and everybody was walking around talking to each other. And actually helping each other. If another team needed a hand, you'd be amazed how
Mhm.
many other teams jumped up to give them a hand, whatever they needed. To me, that's putting the fun back in paintball.
Yes.
Not that there's nothing wrong with the other side of it. That's fine. But I'm just a guy that likes to have fun in paintball. I like to meet people. I like
Mhm.
people to have a good time. And I like people that don't play the sport see us doing that,
Mhm.
thinking, you know what? I want to go try this, because those guys look like they were having a darn good time out there.
Yes, it is. And I've helped out that day. I helped out a few other teammates that with their markers going down. It's a great. It's like the guys are like, you just helped out our opponents. I'm like, hey man, it's just a game. Who cares? You
Yeah.
know.
You played
It,
with Toxic Teddy's down there, didn't you?
yes, you did, and it was
Yeah.
a last moment thing. And I was like, I was trying to find some guys, and I was happy that they needed people, and I had my guys, and they had theirs, and we just got together, everybody jived, and everybody. It's like we all knew each other for years, and we actually just met that day.
Right, exactly. But see, now that's what I'm talking about. You had
Mhm.
fun. It's still competitive, but it wasn't like a business. It was like
Yes.
having a good time with some cool people. That's what I like to
Mhm.
hear. Is that right there? You
Yes,
know.
it's a great thing. I wish there was more of it. I'm actually dying and waiting for August right now.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very happy, and the WCPL is definitely getting its legs underneath it now. Anything that you start out like this is not easy, and especially we're like the David competing against Goliath, and we're not trying to compete against anybody. We're just trying to give somebody a different venue to go out and
Mhm.
have a good time. And like I say, when I came over and I talked to you, meeting you was a great thing for me. That was you and Joshua Estrada. I got to meet you two guys that I've always wanted to meet, and you were there, and you guys both lived up to everything I thought you guys were going to be. So
You
to
know,
me, that was a good thing. So I'm looking forward to the WCPL up here in August. I'm looking forward to going to New York.
uh
And sometimes Ping, you got to come and play a game with the band.
I wish I wish I can fly out. Make a long story short, they won't let me fly.
Yeah, well, no big deal, no big deal. But you
Yeah.
know what? The band will come out here sometime, and we'll throw you on the band, and
Mhm.
we'll have a good time.
Yeah, I would love to, I've seen photos of you guys, Bud Orr and William Bailey, all you guys in the band.
Yeah,
Gene from Cocker Parts. I was like,
David Bell from Loader.
uh,
There's a bunch of Dan Colby.
yeah, and these are like you guys. I don't see the faces to these products because I wasn't in paintball like that. I just know the
Right,
product, but it's nice to put a face to the product and seeing
absolutely.
who helped create along the way. I've owned a lot of these products. I don't know who the owners are. When I first met Bud Orr was at SC Village. I think it was 2012 or 13, right, Bud? Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody was like, they saw my collection. They were like, "There goes the creator right there." And Bud had his grandkids out there. I think he had like 2 to 3 of them. I think they were Jeff's
Yeah.
kids, right? And
Yeah.
there goes the creator right there. He didn't look like the Bud Orr I remember from the posters.
Yeah, it's
you
because
know,
we were all younger then. That's why.
yeah, and I went up and shook his hand, introduced myself, and I still have that photo today. It's just, it's nice to meet someone, that created such a great product. And there's a lot of guys in paintball that created, a great product, and just meeting them, and it's what other sport can you meet, and not only the creator are that friendly, that even teams like certain teams like pro teams, what other sport out there, is the people don't have a
Approachable.
note up in the air, like
Yeah, yeah.
these are very like wholesome people here, in
Well,
the paintball community.
it's funny that you said that because back in the day, I started playing pro very early. I was playing pro
Mhm.
late '80s, right? And a lot of these guys that were so-called pros, they never had the time at all for anybody. The kids would come
Mhm.
up to talk to them, and they'd shine them on. And those guys were so short-lived. And I had products back in the day, and I had a lot of companies that had Fred Schultz product. But my whole thing was I just loved meeting people and talking paintball, and that's what I just think promoting it. That was my bag. You can ask Bud.
Mhm.
Bud and I did a lot of things back in the day, a lot of time on stage, and it was just to me always about pushing the sport. And now that's the same way with the WCPL. I keep meeting new people. And God, I got to tell you, to me, there's nothing better than doing that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love meeting new people.
Yeah. I've met a lot of great people, through paintball, especially the autococker community. It's like the autococker community it's we do have our quarrels. You got guys who,
It's
that's how I
competitive.
came up with the cock wizard, because I made a parody video.
Yeah,
You got guys um that are just so cocky.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but
No,
you know
you're
what?
right.
If these type of feuds breeds a lot of innovations. Without these type of rivalries and builds, even though it's a little, we have these rivalries in the cocker community where these techs are going at it, but it does breed a lot of innovations, a lot of
Right.
competitiveness, which
It
is
does.
good. On and off the field, it's great. And at the end of the day, we're still going to shake hands, and
That's how
it's
it should be.
exactly. We're all a bunch of grown men, and we have nothing to do other than the gripe and battle online.
Well, you got to leave that on the field. That's what separates the grown-ups from the kids is you got to leave it
Yes.
on the field. If there's a problem, leave it on the field or come and talk it out. Don't come out
Yeah.
screaming and yelling and
Yeah.
that's why there's so many people on the band. It takes all of us to keep Bud under control.
Yes.
So, but the guys on the band, all these guys are handpicked guys. They're all not just great people, but what they've done for the sport of paintball over so many years is absolutely incredible. And like I say, Ping, you don't sell over 500,000 markers if it's a piece of junk.
Nope.
It just doesn't work that way, and people just nowadays, everybody's trying to get their hands on a cocker.
Exactly.
I love the way the damn thing shoots. It just that ball just floats through the air for me, man. It's just absolutely love it. So
it's just blessing, It's just it's what Bud have done, It's just I was talking to him a while back. It's like you got to come up with one more, just one more.
I'm in his ear all the time about that. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I had to work on Tim Schloss for 2.5 years to get him to come back out with the tiger stripe. And now he's coming back out with it, so we just keep working on Bud, he's a tough cookie, but he'll come around. He's a nice guy.
I'd love to do it, but I can't get anybody to work with me.
I'm working with you. I'm right. I'll work with you in a hot second. I got guys that'll mill for us and everything.
Yeah.
Make 100 of them. Make 100 anniversary ones. And I got to tell you, those babies would be like gold to have. So
put me on the list.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, Ping, I've gone over my hour. I'm going to let you say goodbye to everybody. First, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight. I really, really do appreciate it. And what I said about the respect that I have for you, it holds big time. Really, really do, my friend. So I'm going to let you say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for having me, Fred. Bye, Bud.
Hey,
Bye, Bud.
Love you. Say hi to the kids for me.
Will do. They're in the background. I can hear them. They're raising up hell back there.
Okay, well, that's okay. Yeah, that's what kids are about, Love you, brother. You take care.
All right, Ping, you take it easy, my friend.
Bye, guys. Take care.
See ya.
All right, everybody. That was Mr. Ping King. What a great guy, huh, Bud?
Yep. One of the good guys. Yep.
Absolutely
He's awesome. So
he is. And
anyway, I had a good time. I had a good time tonight. So.
Well, we always have. People love to hear you talk, man. I don't think you get it. People absolutely love to hear your stories, and I do. I mean, I know you, and I get to hear you. I get to talk to you on the phone, and I still love hearing your stories and what you got to say and your input and what you still do after 150 years, what you're still doing for paintball. I mean.
Now, wait a minute. You said not to talk age. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was talking about Bill. I'm sorry, but I got you guys confused.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I got to tell you.
Just because I came over on the Mayflower, it don't make me old.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, but I appreciate everything you coming on tonight, my friend. You're a show by yourself.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. But the people made me. That's it. You and Bill and all my friends and paintball, my family, my whole paintball family. Some of them don't like me, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah, one less Christmas card, big deal.
Yeah. I hear my girl. She came on the second one to come on tonight.
Bonchik?
Yeah.
She was the second one. Bonchik is the only girl. one more time. Bonchick is the only person that has beat Paul Farrell on. Paul Farrell is the first person on every show. He's the number one person, and Ryan Courtney is pretty close right behind him. But Bonchick beat him, not tonight, but she did beat him already a couple of weeks ago. Man, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. So
she's
very cool.
She's good.
She's
Well,
a
I know
doll.
you got to get, so I'll love everybody, and I had a great time, and I just it was fantastic. So
Well, hang on. We'll talk in the green room.
okay, you
All right,
bet.
buddy. All right, Billy.
That's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty damn cool. I mean,
Yeah.
you get Bud. You could do a show probably straight through a month or so talking to Bud. I mean, the guy.
Just hearing his original stories are just awesome. Because
It is, but like I say, what he's done for paintball and what he's still doing. God, I mean, he hasn't stopped. I mean, if you can't respect that, then I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. That's all there is to it.
Paintball's in your blood. It's in your blood. You live by it.
That's it, brother.
Yeah.
All right, Billy. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
See you, everybody. Hey, our show tomorrow night. Tomorrow night at on General Paintball Museum, we're going to be talking about spiders. Not the creepy little 8-legged things, but the Kingman spiders.
Yeah, I got one over here. So yeah.
Well,
I'll have to tune in. That's tomorrow night at what time, Bill?
8 o'clock Central
6 o'clock
Time.
Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock where Bill lives.
Yep, exactly.
All right,
General Paintball Museum. All right.
There you go. All right, Billy. All right, everybody. That's Mr. William Bailey. Let me start by thanking you so much for tuning in tonight and watching tonight's show. My guests, I can't ever say enough about the great guests I'm honored to have on, and I can never ever say enough about my audience. I just love you guys taking time out of your life to sit and watch us talk a little bit about paintball. You guys are the best of the best, and I just become speechless when I try to talk about the people that watch this show. I absolutely love you guys. So I guess it's time to go. Thank you once again, everybody. I want to thank Bud Orr. I want to thank Peng King for being my guest tonight. William Bailey, as always. And I hope you tune in next week for another great show. And please remember, everybody, individually, we can do a lot for paintball. Together, we can do an awful lot for paintball. So till next Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock Pacific time, on Facebook, on Flag Pull Productions. Remember, please play hard, play safe, play fair. I'll see you next week. All right. Bye now.